Hello, I'm Helene Oberman, Managing Director of Interior Design Magazine, and I'd like to welcome you to Product Live. This is our series that delves into the products and trends grabbing the industry and in real time looking at the minds behind the design. For more than 110 years, CertainTeed has been a leader in the architectural products industry with a focus on the responsible development of innovative and sustainable design solutions. The company continues to set the standard for building materials through their groundbreaking manufacturing practices and product innovations. And it's all done with CertainTeed's mission in mind to enhance the well-being of an individual, to be socially responsible throughout their community, and to reduce their impact on the environment. With me today to discuss CertainTeed's latest product innovation, which embraces the power of one of my favorite materials, felt, is Steve Udoff, National Sales Manager for CertainTeed. Welcome, Steve. It's nice to have you.
How you doing? Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So Heartfelt is a series of ceiling and wall systems that really speaks to the needs of the designer working in the commercial space. So can you tell us a little bit about the motivation behind the launch of Heartfelt?
Well, Heartfelt is a very soft material with it's in felt, and felt has become very trendy. And so we decided that we needed a product to compete in that same arena. But we also wanted to keep in mind the core principles of what really made us who we are, and that is a carrier system with panels that snap into it. And so that's what Heartfelt did. And it's a linear product that snaps into carriers just like our metal does.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because CertainTeed certainly has a long list of architectural products that really offer solutions for ceilings and walls and well beyond. But I'm curious if you actually had ever worked with felt before.
No, we've never worked with felt before, but we found that it was a very important initiative for us to get into this trendy material because we're seeing it on a lot of projects, and we also know that we have a lot of designers that like to work with felt. So we felt like it was very important for us to try to get into that felt arena, but again, do it in our own special way.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, would you say that felt is one of those materials that really offers designers both high design and a real solution for sound control within an environment?
Yeah, I would. And what's really interesting about felt is felt's sound absorption is actually different than, say, metal or wood, where wood absorbs very, very well in the low end and kind of tails off towards the high end of the spectrum. Felt is the complete opposite. It doesn't absorb as well in the low end, but it really absorbs well in the high end of the spectrum. So it offers a different type of sound absorption. It'll absorb the higher pitch sounds.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, what are some of the benefits of incorporating acoustical products, especially those made of felt, into an interior space?
Well, anytime you have an interior space with hard surfaces, you have echo, and you have flutter echo, which is the echo bouncing off the walls. And it takes time for that echo to dissipate. And so you need to add some type of absorptive material into that space. It doesn't always have to be specifically felt, but felt is a very good absorber. It has very high noise reduction and can dissipate that sound faster than a lot of other materials. So it's a really good choice when you're looking at rooms such as band rooms, such as gymnasiums, such as even office spaces. It'll absorb the sound very, very well.
And we're really living in a time where the health and well-being of an individual is more important than ever. So really, how can the ability to minimize sound pollution really address some of the issues that we're finding in larger commercial spaces?
Well, I think right now there's a trend to a lot of real open space. And I think there's a real trend to I want to say cubes and individual workstations. And that will generate more noise. You have phones, you have discussions, you have group sessions, and a lot of it is all in an open area. And so you really need to be able to absorb that sound so that you have a space that's audible. You don't have a lot of echo, making that space very inaudible.
Mm-hmm. And where do you see designers integrating Heartfelt into their projects?
Oh, we see it all over the place. We've seen it on stadiums. We've seen it in simple little offices. We've seen it in libraries. We've used it in major communication offices. So we've seen it in a lot of different spaces. I would say that it could pretty much go anywhere. It has very good abuse resistance, so it can go to the floor. You don't have to worry about traffic, and obviously, designers really love the look of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like it's incredibly versatile. It can be used just about anywhere, but I would love to really dive into some of the design elements of Heartfelt, which I know our designers out there want to hear about. And so it comes in 3 distinct formats, correct? There's linear. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, it comes in, so right now we've got it in a couple different formats. First of all, you've got your linear, and the linear is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's long lines. It has, we have 10 different colors, gray tones and earth tones. The gray tones are by far the most popular, but we've seen a real uptick in the earth tones in the last 6 months in design. And then we have 2 other forms. First of all, it can come in clouds, and that's brand new and has just been released. And those are pre-made cloud kits that allow a designer to actually design in the specific shapes. So, for example, if you had specific cubicles or areas in a space, or you wanted to do different levels of Heartfelt, but you wanted to know exactly what it was going to look like, you could buy the pre-made kits. And then the last form that we're looking at that it comes in is in Baffles. And that's brand new, and that hasn't been released, but is coming this summer.
Okay, well, I know that like designers are probably anxious to see it, but as I know, and I think I mentioned in almost every interview that designers love to customize. And it sounds like Heartfelt really comes in a variety of shapes and profiles that really can accommodate, the most conventional to the more extreme designs of a project.
Yeah, so linear comes in 3 distinct depths, and where our standard depth of Heartfelt is available in your gray and your earth tones, the different depths, the deeper profiles are available only in the gray tones. We also then have a rounded bottom, and that as well is a linear product.
So beyond that, you also have something new, which is more of a cloud format, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have a couple other new things that we're working on. We just introduced a brand new cloud formations that come in specific kits. And these clouds can be placed over different areas. They can be placed at different depths in the ceiling to add a real design element to any space. Then there's also Baffles, and the Baffles will launch this summer. And we're really excited about that because we think these Baffles are going to be an industry leader.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because obviously with the idea of versatility and flexibility in mind, you can just create endless configurations. And you were saying, no matter the scale of the actual project.
Well, that's correct. The other things you can do is you can take it down a wall, you can take it up a wall. You can by turning the carriers, you can orient them differently. So for example, we've seen libraries where they've had 4 different areas, all running different ways, kind of coming into each other. So again, if you think it, we will try to help you accommodate it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually would love to, you kind of touched on it earlier, but really speak to the color palette of Heartfelt, at least the more standard color palette, which is a very sort of natural and neutral in tone. Can you tell us sort of why you started that with that look and that color palette?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, I think the gray tones have traditionally been the tones that we've seen in ceilings. Your blacks, your darker grays, and then your whites, right? So if you think about just one of your standard lay-in ceilings, they're almost always white. So anywhere from black to white, we see a lot of design with. The earth tones then are, they give it a more natural feel, and they were slower to pick up momentum. But in Europe, the trend went to more earth tone ceilings. And We in the United States seem to follow Europe about 9 to 12 months behind. So that's why we're now seeing the pickup of the earth tones. Eventually, we'd like to get into other colors, but that's a research thing. And there's some things that go along with thermoforming a product that you have to look at. And so when you infuse color, it changes some things. So that's one of the things that we're researching right now and trying to do, bring more color into Heartfelt.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, this natural and neutral sort of palette that you have developed really speaks to the power of biophilia, I feel like, and this connection to nature and how it can improve well-being, which is probably why it's being, you know, it's so well used in places like Europe where they've been thinking about that for a long time.
I fully agree with that. And again, we're always 9 to 12 months behind. And so I think biophilic construction and design is really starting to come over here right now. But it's not been a major focus that we've seen until the recent. And so that's one of the reasons and trends that we see the earth tones starting to really pick up momentum.
Mm-hmm. Well, it goes back to this idea of health and well-being, which we know has been a long time conversation, but certainly within the last year or two has really come to the forefront. But something else that I think is really important and really sort of at the heart of Certainteed is you guys have had such sustainability long be part of your culture. And I think you guys really understand that designers are now more conscious than ever about how their designs and the products that they're specifying really impacts the environment. So how does a product like Heartfelt really address this demand for more sustainable products?
Well, one of the things about Heartfelt is it's the first product that we have that's actually a cradle to cradle product. So it's the first time that we've been able to get to that certification. The other thing that we have is a green gold certified on certificate on this particular product. It's 100% recyclable, and it is coming from natural fibers. And so everything about Heartfelt is fairly natural. And I think from an environmental standpoint, those are the types of products that we look to manufacture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, but you know, something we shouldn't forget is the performance of it, correct? I mean, it comes in endless configurations, beautiful natural colorways, is sustainable, but also really performs within a space.
Yeah, I mean, the performance is a big deal when it comes to, again, the sound absorption. I think all felt products have some type of good absorption. Heartfelt is more of an entire ceiling rather than just hanging baffles and things like that. And so because of that, I think you get more absorption across the entirety of your ceiling. We have to remember that sound bounces at right angles. And so you want as much coverage as you can to catch that sound when it bounces off of a wall or off of a floor and starts heading towards the ceiling. And Heartfelt does a really good job of that.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also the idea of maintenance of a product like Heartfelt, correct?
That's correct. And first of all, Heartfelt's a very low maintenance product. It doesn't soil well. And when I say that, it doesn't pick up dirt and dust very well. But even if it does, it's a fabric. So you can simply take a shop vac and vacuum it clean. And I think that's really important because it is truly a lifetime of the building product.
Mm-hmm. Well, Heartfelt sounds like an amazing product that really, it speaks to sustainability. It speaks to, of course, health and wellness of an individual in a space. It really fits a lot of needs that designers need, especially because they love to customize. But Stephen, I really appreciate all your time and your insight into Certainteed and of course to Heartfelt, and to our wonderful audience out there. Please make sure to check out the Certainteed website to learn more about Heartfelt, or go to our partners at Material Bank to order a sample. Thank you.
Hey everybody, happy Earth Day. This is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design, and welcome to our special Keilhauer Takeover Day, who are celebrating 40 years of design. You heard me right, 4 decades of thoughtfully manufacturing seating and a slew of creative solutions for all the different ways that people work. Now, today I am here with the president, Mike Keilhauer, a leader in the industry who happens to also be a great friend. Let's hear from Mike about the history of the company, the highlights of the past decades, and their ongoing commitment to design and sustainability. Here he is, Mike Keilhauer. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
I'm so happy to see you, honestly.
Why? Oh my, yes. I've been missing us getting together, you know.
I know. There are times during the year, everybody out there, that I know I'm going to see Mike, and it's definitely a highlight. And oh my God, Mike, 4 decades, this is amazing.
Yes, I'm finding it hard to believe that the time has passed so quickly, really.
I know. And you know what's kind of fun when we think about anniversaries? It gives all of us on the editorial side, but you two, like a chance to think back about the history. Now, I know it's, you know, furniture is a family business for you, and your dad's name is Ed, and it goes way back, right? So give us like the cliff notes of Ed and how it all started.
He immigrated to Canada from Europe, but what he trained in was leather and leather through saddle making.
So it was called Fine Art Upholstery, right? In the 50s, right?
Yes, Fine Art Upholstery. And his business was really about custom furniture. And then he started to evolve his own brand, and Fine Art International became a brand in the late 70s. And then we all came along. There were, you know, 5 sons. And
5 sons. Oh my God. Wait, first of all, it must have been like a big thing for him to, when he finally came out and said, it's Keilhauer, like using your name, right?
Well, we started a brand new company.
Uh-huh.
We had partners, and so he sort of left that, and we started our own family business. So we really started from scratch, because when he left the old partnership, we had to start from scratch.
And then when were you starting to like actually make furniture then?
Yeah, in 1981, we rented a space and started. And he was our furniture guru, but my brother Ron, who was also a tradesman, was an upholsterer and could manufacture patterns and prototypes and all of that. So they were the back end, and myself and my brother Rick were the front end. So Rick was in charge of the processing, and I was the sales, marketing, everything else guy. And they ran the factory, and we started out as a custom shop, and we did custom furniture, and we developed this skill set around really seeing what the market needed and then creating product for it. And then we started working with outside designers, and that's with my father being the first one. Yeah,
so I understand like Ed did a really great chair in the 80s, right?
The Elite chair, which we still sell today. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's an iconic piece. It still looks as good today as it did back then. And I'm thrilled that we have an iconic piece that's stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Some pieces don't, you know, we're in and out of the market. We have several that have stood the test of time, which is very exciting.
Let's look back because there are definitely breakthroughs, whether it's product launches or things you learned that were happening during that time that helped you reshape the company. So the first was Elite, right? You said it was this, you know, it's an icon, which is so great that you had one. Then there was, I'll name them, you tell me about them. The Tom. I remember the Tom.
Tom. Yes, Tom was a great product. You know, but the other thing that, Cindy, that was happening was we were learning about the industry, but we were also, you know, building distribution. We were building our sales forces, but around the design side, we were really trying to understand what this is all about. And we really were reaching out. So Chris Sorensen was our first outside designer, and he had all this experience. And then we found Tom Deacon, who was the golden boy of design in Canada. That's what they actually called him that in an article.
Oh, really?
Really, he was an architect, but he liked furniture because it was smaller scale. And so we learned how to work with designers, you know. We learned how to go to them with a brief, like, here's what we need. And then we learned how to collaborate to bring a product to market.
And, you know, I have to say, like, I still have these kind of memories of going to NeoCon and thinking about what we would see, have great expectation of what we would see from you, but also like kind of an editor's eye in terms of like, what designers might you find interesting and want to work with? And I always thought that was like your perspective and your viewpoint was always so relevant.
I think we started doing things early. Like today, in the contract market at Neocon, every single company has industrial designers. They all have industrial designers on their website. Everyone has been doing that.
Right.
But in the early 90s, they weren't.
No, it was revolutionary. It was pioneering. I know, that's what's so cool about looking back. Now, I remember, I mean, you tell me, the Tom, if it wasn't upholstered, it was the chair that had the perfs in the back?
Yeah.
I love that.
Right. We were sort of the anti-Aeron. Aeron was the machine for working. And ours was, we named it Tom, not because of Tom Deacon, but because we wanted it to be your friend at work.
Right.
We wanted to have a personality. We wanted to be softer. And it also, our evolution was also around not just product, but the embracing of design as a concept that became pervasive in our business. Yeah. So we started working with Michael Vanderbijl at that time. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to Concrete Design, who created the Tom brand, which was a huge success.
Again, these are things that you can't have a business these days without all the pieces of the pies, this sort of like holistic approach. But back then, it was like, go to the Keilhauer showroom, wow, and so Tom was the first, huh?
Tom was a big one. Yeah, Tom was the first time we really rather than just branding our company and doing product shots, it was the first time that we created like a movement around a product. And we actually, at Neocon, the year we introduced it, we had our Keilhauer showroom, and we rented a separate space to launch Tom. There was a picture of Tom, and on the one page on the front of it, it said, "This is Tom." And when you turned the page, it said, "Tom can be bought." And we had some Toms take offense, but it's like, have a sense of humor. Come on.
I remember it, and I love it, and it really was. And the thing is too, like my memories of you, tall, strapping president that you are, is that you were so proud. You're so proud of the collaborations, the designs. You really connect to that, and as an outside person or as a designer, you feel that coming from you, which is very meaningful, I think, for a company.
That's where it's the creative edge. It's where you're always looking forward, and the collaborations are the fun part of the business. Running a manufacturing company and doing the work and spitting up furniture and doing all of that and building your industrial capacity, that's a lot of hard work. It's fun too, but it's the creative side that really gets your juices flowing. Okay,
so another like shifter for you was Simple.
And each one of these things, each one, Elite, Tom, Simple, as we go through this, all reflect a change in the way offices worked. And they were all a reflection of technology. So, the Elite chair was at a time when it was big desks and secretaries and IBM Selectrics and all of that wonderful thing. And Tom, it was now all of a sudden desktops where everyone, even the executives, were at their desks typing their own letters and working. So they needed a different kind of machine to work with. And Simple was the next step where people started to work with laptops. But you go to a laptop, but you still had to go to a conference room and you still had to plug in. So that evolved a different chair, and Simple became part of that process because it was a very simple, straightforward solution to conferencing. And it was one of the first chairs of its type. Everyone has one now, but it was kind of the first one of its kind at that moment and was very successful. I remember it took a little while to get going just because people didn't understand the concept of it. But once they got it, it immediately took off. And at the same time, we introduced knit backs as opposed to the woven that was hitting. We created the knit back, which is more colorful. And so always trying to do something a little bit different so that it became a Keilhauer product.
It would be impossible not to talk about Keilhauer and at the same time talk about the long relationship that you've had with our friends at EOS. And that's connected to, is this the first the cahoots, kind of the really big EOS beginning for you?
We started with EOS. We've been working with them over 20 years now.
Amazing.
Probably in 2000-ish. And we were working on a concept for a new way to sit. We were looking at bouncing balls.
Oh my God, that's right. I remember that. With what was it called? The squig?
The Squig.
The Squig.
So we went to them. We saw their work in Europe, and we really liked their work, and so we got in touch with them. And they were just sort of starting out as well. And so we tried to create that kind of seating. And although it didn't quite work the way we wanted to, because it was kind of revolutionary, we were really experimenting. We ended up with a fabulous chair because we learned so much. We learned that men and women sit differently, and how they sit differently, and why they sit differently. And it changed the way that we approached the way we put a chair together. It changed the way that we did our backs. Instead of concave, we made them convex, and a lot of influence there.
I remember the Squig, and I remember like that you were looking at everything like research, and the boys too, right? Like a research project. So I like that you said like you guys were ahead of your time in terms of that, but you were really understanding a new way to move. And that was really interesting.
But that was the start. And then it sort of evolved for a few years. And then we had Cahoots, which was a huge, which represented the next change in office. So all of a sudden wireless was everywhere. And I admittedly, we sort of fell into that because what we were doing at the time, we were doing a lot of airport lounges, you know, like the American Airlines Lounge and the United Lounge and the Delta Lounge. And so we had EOS do a study on what do you need in a lounge? And it turns out that, you know, they came up with four concepts. They came up with relax, work, meet, and privacy. And so those were the basis, that was the basis of Cahoots. And who knew that airplane lounge was exactly what the new office was going to look like.
Yeah, exactly.
So we hit it right on the money, and we were sort of lucky, but it's amazing how lucky you get when you work hard, you know, all those great things. But that started our move in a slightly different direction for Keilhauer, because up to that point we were kind of mainly conference with some lounge. Yeah. And then we really became a lounge, more collaborative seating company, and it changed the way that our swivel tilters were done because they were more conferencey. Right. And we became more loungy, and we sort of did that whole thing.
Everything was mishing, you know, everything was merging.
Yeah, and those influences were starting to come into our everyday design process.
I liked on the Cahoots that it was a wide range of like lightly scaled, and then it was also mobile, and then more oversized. I love that it was like the whole family.
You know, we started having vocabulary conversations, because that was a vocabulary. And it was tied together because there was a detail that was, and the boys called it an ypsilon, but there was sort of a Y upholstery that was in all the pieces. They all looked different, but there was this one element that tied the collection together. And when we started talking about families, we started talking about how families work, just like talking about a family. Yeah. They're not the same. They're related. Everyone has its own personality, its own direction, its own purpose. And that sort of influenced design for us from that point forward, because when we started talking about families, and it became quite a success for us to do collections. And then, you know, working with EOS has been fabulous, because we go away once a year. We have our big think sessions, and you know, we have a lot of wine and we laugh a lot, and we come up with an idea, and that becomes a new collection.
I love that. You were telling me how you were driving around driving around Italy, right?
We've been to the Alps, we've been to Italy, and we've been out to the Rockies, we've been to the beach. You know, it's just, again, I wonder if the collections reflect where we've been, or what we were indulging in at the time.
Exactly. I have to ask you, what does Cahoots, the name, like, where did that come from?
Well, when you're in cahoots with someone, right? You know, that's where the expression came from.
The reason why I ask is because I think a lot of the names have a little bit of a wink. You know, even when it's a small word, even the word Tom kind of has a little wink. Sure. And then being in Cahoots and Squig.
It's simple. We did a program on little black dresses, and, you know, all those things, you know, so yeah. Yeah.
What about the new collection, Elevate, from them, which I love? It's really beautiful.
Elevate's sort of an extension of the collection that we had that was called Untucked. Wow. Untucked was sort of pre-Elevate. Elevate sort of expanded it a little bit. The Untucked collection was that year that we won Best of Show, and it was sort of the highlight year for us. A designer walked in and just sort of looked around and went, wow, you guys really nailed it. and my heart soared, and I felt.
Oh.
I remember I told you I shared with you what new.
I remember this is when you're the pride, but I appreciate it so much because
we've been working on something for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And we take it to the show and we set it all up, and I always have pre-show jitters.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, the first night before the curtain goes up. Is everything right? You know, you got to make sure it's right. Is the product? Are they going to like us? You know, sure. Are they going to like the product? Did we hit it? Is our work going to come to fruition? Every year, that's also where the juice is. It's, you know, I can understand why actors act, because the curtain goes up and they're on, and we have the same feeling at NeoCon every year. So.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we definitely missed it this year.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. All right. Well, we have to talk about this, because you and I have had conversations about how the world has changed and how you think about what you're producing and how you're producing. And you've been doing this for a few years now, but sustainability is now woven into everything you do. And I love that you say, because you're very honest and truthful, you say, our goal is to carry as light a footprint as we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we have to rely on so many other people to do what we do. And so we follow sometimes. We need some of the big guys to do things. We push sometimes, we lead sometimes, but we're always moving in the same direction. We sort of started back in the early mid-90s, was when we sort of caught on to the sustainability thing. Mm-hmm. There was a book out by Emery Levins and Paul Hawken called The Ecology of Commerce, right? And Ray Anderson from Interface Carpets read that book and apparently came into the office the next day having had one of those moments, grandkids, and said to his guy, apparently had a big cry about what we were doing with the world, and came into his team and said, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I met Ray, and I said, so here's what we're doing. He said, just take one step at a time, Mike, and move forward. And we've been doing that ever since. So that was mid-90s. It's the new wave in the last 5 years, but we've been at it for 25 years. And every year we get a little bit better and a little bit better. And so now we're, as you can see from our website, if you visit our website, it's an integral part of what we do. It's how we're designing our product now. It's everything we touch now, we're really thinking about it. We have a team in-house that reviews it all, cradle to grave, life cycle analysis. We have a corporate sustainability report. I mean, we're really serious about our business.
Yeah. And I like what you said, because, you know, there is a lot of jargon out there, but for you, it's this commitment and an ongoing process. And I think that's the most honest you can be. Yes. And then it translates into product, which I love, because you do have an amazing product with a wink called Swerve.
With a wink, another wink. Yeah, Swerve's exciting. It's very exciting. You know, the whole world is moving to carbon neutrality, you know, as we try to embrace global warming. As a world, we have to have something to measure so that we can see how we're progressing. Because if we just all said, oh, let's stop global warming, which is what people are saying, but then how do you do it, and what do you measure, and how are you going to achieve it? Because if you don't measure it, you don't do it, and how do you know what direction to take? So we've created a carbon neutral chair. It's a big step for us, and I think one of the first carbon neutral chairs anywhere, because we've been looking, and it's sort of a new philosophy. You know, I think the major design firms are all moving to carbon neutrality, and the architectural firms, and they can't do it without us manufacturers supplying them with the tools to become carbon neutral. You know, they can say carbon neutral, but unless all of their suppliers are embracing it, they can't achieve it. So we're doing our part in the furniture side. And so we did carbon neutrality, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, who's this Andrew Jones, Canadian designer, right? Who designed?
Canadian designer, yeah. He was not a protege, but a very close friend of Tom Deacon, and they work very closely together. They've done some work together, and they're good friends, and they're great designers. So Andrew gave us the concept of the chair, which is light and simple and straightforward, but really quite elegant. Yeah. And then our team worked really hard on the sustainability side. You know, none of us are carbon free. Can't say that. Because the moment you deliver the product in a truck,
exactly,
you're generating carbon.
Right.
So, but you can be carbon neutral, which means you measure from the start to the finish of a product. And we don't like to have a start and end, because we're really looking at a technical nutrient cycle, which is what the ecology of commerce was about. It really still comes down to reduce, reuse, recycle. Those are still the keystones of everything we do. But now we're measuring the materials. Materiality is becoming the big issue now. Like, what are you actually using? Some are looking for transparency materials, as are we with redless free and all this wonderful stuff. But you measure it.
Yeah.
From how much carbon is emitted here and how much is emitted here and how much is emitted here, and you figure out exactly how much. I think we were talking earlier, 116 kilograms.
Yeah, 116.3 kilograms of carbon are emitted in the Swerve chair. Yeah.
In the manufacturing process from start to
finish. In the life cycle. Yeah, in the life cycle of the chair. Hearing from you, hearing your sincerity, hearing you being upfront, like you're saying, like you can't fake things that you don't have control over either. You can try to do the right thing and work and push that others do it as well, right?
I'll tell you, the whole sustainability world, it's a very hard path. Yeah. It's a hard journey, because you'll figure out, okay, we're going to fix this. We're not going to use this material. And so you walk through this door number one, where you've achieved this great success. And then there's 3 doors in front of you.
Right.
You go, oh my God, what happened here? Like, okay, we fixed it, but now we've got another thing. And you just keep opening doors and moving forward. That's how you do it until you get to where you can be as clean as possible.
Right, exactly. Well, you're a leader in that way. You're a leader in that way, Mike.
Yeah, thanks. So now we've done and the other thing is, you don't want to be a greenwasher. So everything that we do is third-party certified. Mm-hmm. All the measurement of everything that we do is third-party certified. So we do the work. Someone comes in and checks it and says, yes, of course, that's exactly right. And then we move to the next part, where now we have to buy carbon credits to offset. So now we're going to a nonprofit.
Right, carbonfund.com, right? That's who you're going to?
Carbonfund.com, who have third-party certified. They are the third-party certifier of these fabulous carbon offsets. So we get to go in and do a little bit of shopping and find some things that we really, really like. So we're they in Africa, in Kenya, they burn wood to clean their water. So there's a project now that uses a different technology to help them, which reduces carbon. In Minnesota, they're working on their forests to make them better. And so you can do that. You can keep a tree. It's not like just, oh, we're going to plant 5,000 trees. Right. There's another project that we're working on in the US where, all the big diesel trucks, when you go to get a coffee, you stop and they don't turn the trucks off, and smoke is pouring out the back. Well, there's a study being done right now, and people are working on plugging those things so that they can process the diesel fuel while they're idling, which would reduce carbon significantly. So those are the kinds of projects we're supporting. And that's also kind of satisfying too, because we know that we're doing a great chair, and we're doing some good on top of the great chair. And that's why it's so satisfying.
I love that. And we're hearing from designers all over that they're also very, very interested in knowing how something is made, but also specifying things that are close to home. And this chair is manufactured in North America. So this is a good story, as you said, the full circle, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I go through the history of furniture and talk to people about it, and go back and say, these are the models that have influenced, and from when we started, this is how technology affected us. Sustainability is the new material. It's how do we reduce that stuff? Our new Division 12 group, just as an aside, it's a steel company everything's made in North America. So you don't have to bring this kind of fun product in from China. It's made here, and it's well made, built to last, and colorful and all that. But we really decided to get into that business at this time because we wanted to stop the flow of goods from China. We wanted to manufacture locally.
I love that. And Division 12, it seems like a really good brother or sister to your family of products, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very different from what we do. That's why we did a different brand, because they have to be branded differently, because we're a serious furniture manufacturer, but
they're fun and colorful.
But the Vision 12's not. They were reverent. They were reverent. Those damn
they
kids.
are, and we love them for it. We love them for it. All right, so Mike, so we're wrapping up. This is what I want to know. Do you have I know they're all your babies, I know, but give me a favorite product. How about one that has a really strong memory for you?
The simple chair for me. But they all have strong memories, because the Elite chair was our first win, and God, thank goodness it put us into business, so I have very strong attachment to it.
Yeah.
But the Simple was kind of the product that really was one that we defined the market, we really defined it. We listened really carefully. We listened to what our customers were asking us to do. And they didn't ask us to do that. They just asked us to do other things, but we heard in that this new idea that needed to be satisfied.
Yeah.
And then we created a whole bunch of really cool new things that went with it. And then it didn't catch right away. And I was like scratching my head going, what the heck? And then it hit. And it was a big win for us. And that was very satisfying.
I kind of have a favorite. There's so much good, good design out there that you're doing right now, but I still love the Reuben by Mark Kafka.
Oh,
and
yes.
I love that. I love that whole collection. It's so sculptural. And that's the other thing about Swerve that we didn't mention, but designers want things that are good for the world, but they also want something that they love that looks amazing. And that one also has that beautiful sculptural line. I still feel your passion and your creative spirit and energy for the future. So what are you thinking about?
Well, some people say, what's your best product? And you say, what's my next one?
Right.
I don't know. I think we've done some great products, but I think we're still striving.
Yeah.
We worked really hard. I love us trying to figure out what the next thing is. Mm-hmm. And I'm also really enjoying, which we're looking for new teams now. And I've got long relationships with EOS and fairly long time with Andrew Jones as well. But we've got these new groups that we're working with right now, like Form Us with Love is a new group.
I think that is definitely something that we see about Keilhauer that is so special. Even if others are working with designers, you always find somebody really interesting or really interesting team that's not the big star they're gonna be, you help make them that. And as an editor, that's what we're always looking for too.
Sure.
So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for that. Yeah. So first of all, you have to thank all your brothers.
Okay? I do. Yes.
You have to give them all a hug. One family, one company bringing great design out into the world. First of all, I want to thank you for your commitment and passion to design and what you're doing for people and the planet. And also for your friendship. It means so much to me. And cheers for 40 years. Yeah, oh my God. And on to the next 40.
On to the next 40. Okay. Well, we have to say that. Let's
hey.
40 more.
Exactly. Well, big love to Mike Keilhauer and to Keilhauer and everyone at Keilhauer. Thank you. We love you. The industry loves you and respects you. Thank you.